Welcome to Petaplic. In this video, you will learn about the below things in Python. What is a function, purpose of the function, creation of a function, execution of a function, what are parameters and arguments. Till now, we have used three inbuilt functions. Type function is used to get the data type of the value. Print function is used to print some output on the screen. ID function is used to get the ID of the object in the memory. In Python, we have a lot of inbuilt functions available for a specific purpose. To make the development easier and faster, a lot of inbuilt functions are developed and made readily available for usage without having the necessity to write the functionality from the scratch. Now we will understand what is a function and what is the use of the function. Functions is an advanced concept, but as you will come across many inbuilt functions from the initial stage of learning, I want you to understand what is a function so that you will be comfortable and use the functions with awareness. To understand what is a function, we will start with an example. Assume that we have this logic developed to perform a calculation based on two numbers for a specific requirement. In this calculation, we are applying the logic using the numbers 10 and 20. Let's say we got a requirement to perform a calculation based on the same logic for the numbers 1000 and 2000 instead of 10 and 20. What should we do? We need to rewrite the entire logic, replacing the number 10 with 1000 and 20 with 2000, and then the calculation should be performed. Similarly, if we want to perform the same calculation with 45 and 70, we need to rewrite the entire logic again, replacing the number 10 with 45 and 20 with 70, and then the calculation should be performed. Similarly, if we want to perform the same calculation with 4 and 5, we need to rewrite the entire logic again, replacing the number 10 with 4 and 20 with 5, and then the calculation should be performed. In this case, we can observe that we need to write the entire logic again and again and replace the values every time based on our requirement. The important thing we should notice is that the logic is same, but the values are changing. We are repeatedly writing the entire logic again and again for each different values. Now we should find a way to perform this calculation faster with different values to minimize the effort. As all these calculations are having the same logic and only the values are changing, we can create a generic formula assuming the first value as variable x and the second value as a variable y. Now we have the generalizer formula available. In the generalizer formula, when we replace the variable x with the first value and replace the variable y with the second value, then we will get the required calculation. This approach will save some time for us when compared to writing the logic again and again with different numbers. Let's start implementing this calculation in a program with the help of variables. We can create a variable x to store the first value 10 and a variable y to store the second value 20. After creating the variable, we need to specify the calculation developed for the variables. As we want the output of the calculation on the screen, we must use the print function and pass the entire logic inside the print function. During the execution of the program, the variable x will be replaced with 10 and the variable y will be replaced with 20 in the formula. The interpreter automatically takes care of replacing the values for the variables in the formula during the execution. The print function will print the final result on the screen. As we need to perform the calculation for the variables x equal to 4 and y equal to 5, we need to assign the new value 4 to the variable x and 5 to the variable y. Then we need to rewrite the logic again to print the result of the calculation for the values x and y. Similarly, for performing the calculation of 1000 and 2000, we need to repeat the same code by changing the values of x and y to 1000 and 2000. Similarly, for performing the calculation with 45 and 70, we need to repeat the same code by changing the value of x to 45 and the value of y to 70. This is the final program code to perform the calculation of 4 different values of x and 4 different values of y. From this code, we can observe that the logic is written repeatedly for each values of x and y, and we are not reusing the logic. For each calculation, we need to write 3 lines of code. If we have a requirement to perform the same calculation with 20 different values of x and y, then we need to write 60 lines of code in our program. If any change in the logic happens, we need to modify the logic in all the lines of code wherever we have specified the logic in our programs. This modification will be very difficult. The best way is we need to specify the logic only once, and we should be able to pass different values of x and y dynamically so that we can do the calculation easier for any different number of values of x and y. The time consumption will also be reduced. For this purpose of eliminating the repeated code and providing a facility of passing the values dynamically to the calculation, a concept called function is developed in every programming language. To create a function, we should be clear with 4 things. The first thing is the name of the function. We need to decide a name to the function for easy identification of the logics. The second thing is what is the logic we want to implement inside the function. The third thing is how many variables are used in the logic and for which variables we need to pass the values dynamically. The fourth thing is which results should be displayed as output to the user. Based on these rules, let's prepare the 4 things to develop a function for our requirements. I am planning to use the function name as myCalculation. The logic is already handy. The requirement is we need to pass the values for the variables x and y dynamically. As the values of x and y are changing dynamically, x and y are called as variables. We want to display the result of the logic as output from the functions. We are clear now with the 4 things required to develop a function. Let's develop a function in Python now. The syntax to create a function in Python is we need to start with a Python keyword called def followed by a space and the function name. After the function name, we should specify a single pair of parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we should specify the variables for which we want to pass the values dynamically. If there are multiple variables, then each variable should be separated by a comma. After the closing parenthesis, we should specify a colon and then press enter. In the next line, we should write 4 spaces or a single tab and then followed by the logic we want to use. The specified 4 spaces or tab is called as indentation. In Python, the indentation is mandatory. We can write any number of lines of code to develop the required logic inside the function, and finally we should use the return keyword to output the result from the function. In most of the programming languages, the return keyword will be available to output some result from the function. The return keyword must be specified in the last line of the function only, and next to the return keyword, we must specify the final result we want to display from the function. Let's develop the function in Python with the 4 things we have already prepared for the function. The first step is mention the name of the function next to the def keyword. Def space myCalculation followed by a single pair of parentheses and followed by a colon. The second step is we need to mention the variables inside the parentheses separated by a comma. In our scenario, x and y are the variables. I am specifying the x and y variables separated by a comma within the parenthesis. The third step is we need to specify the logic, and the result of the logic should be stored in a variables. Here, we are specifying the logic and assigning the result of the logic to the variable with the name final_result. The fourth step is we must output the final result from the function using the return keyword. Here, we are specifying the return keyword, and next to the return keyword, we are specifying the variable final_result. The return keyword output the value of the variable final_result from the function. Now our function is ready, and we need to create this function in Python interpreter. Let's learn how to create the function in Python interpreter. Open the Python interpreter. We should write the first line of the function code and press enter. We will get the 3 dots which convey that the Python interpreter is expecting some more lines of code from us for the function. Now we should write the second line of the code and press enter. We will again get 3 dots asking for some more lines of code for the function. Now we should write the third line of code and press enter. We will again get 3 dots asking for some more lines of code for the function. As we have already provided our complete function code, we do not have any lines of code available to write here. We need to just press enter without writing any line of code. As we did not provide any code, the interpreter understands that the complete function code is provided by the user, and the interpreter will not show the 3 dots again asking for some more lines of code for the function. If the given code does not contain any errors, the function will be created successfully and we will get the Python prompt back with a 3 greater than symbols. If we get the Python prompt with a 3 greater than symbols, this means the function is created successfully in the memory without any errors. In case of any errors in the code, the interpreter will throw error and does not create a function. In my scenario, I did not get any error. The function is created successfully in the memory without any errors. Now we will learn how to use the function with different values of x and y. To execute a function, we need to specify the name of the function followed by a single pair of parentheses. Within the parentheses, we need to specify the values for the variable separated by a comma. The name of our function is myCalculation. I want to execute the function with the value 10 for x and with the value 20 for y. So, we should specify the values 10 and 20 within the parentheses separated by a comma. After writing this code in the Python interpreter, we should press enter. The interpreter will start executing the function with the values 10 and 20 and display the result on the screen. We will understand what happened during the execution of the function. In the first step, the interpreter takes the value mentioned at the first position in the parenthesis and assigns this first value to the first variable specified in the parenthesis during the function creation. In our scenario, x is the variable specified in the first position during the function creation and 10 is the value specified in the first position during the function execution. The interpreter takes the value 10 and assigns this value to the variable x. Similarly, the value in the second position during the function execution is 20 and this value will be assigned to the variable y, which is mentioned in the second position during the function creation. In the second step, the interpreter replaces the value of x and y with the values 10 and 20 in the specified logic. In the third step, the final expression will be evaluated and the final result of the calculation is stored in the variable final_result. In the fourth step, the return keyword read the value of the variable final_result and output the result from the function. Now we will understand how to reuse the function with different values of x and y. To execute the logic with different values of x and y, we need to execute the myCalculation function with the values 4 and 5 within the parenthesis separated by a comma. The logic will be executed with the values x equal to 4 and y equal to 5 and the result will be printed on the screen. Similarly, we can execute the myCalculation function with the values 1000 and 2000. The function will evaluate the logic with the values x equal to 1000 and y equal to 2000 and the final result will be printed on the screen. Similarly, we can execute the myCalculation function with the values 45 and 70. The function will evaluate the logic with the values x equal to 45 and y equal to 70 and the final result will be printed on the screen. We can execute the function any number of times with different values of x and y. The logic will be executed with the given values and the result will be displayed on the screen. From these examples, we can understand that the logic is written only once and the logic is reused multiple times without the burden of rewriting the logic again and again for each different value of x and y. This reusability of the code with different values according to the requirement is the actual advantage of the function. Every function is created with some functionality and this functionality can be reused any number of times with different values for the variables. Just like myCalculation function, print function, id function, type function are the inbuilt functions already developed and available in Python by default. Print function is developed with the functionality of printing the given value on the screen. id function is developed with the functionality of getting the id of the object created for the given variable. Type function is developed with the functionality of identifying the type of value provided and return the data type class on the screen. We can reuse these inbuilt functions any number of times with different values for the variables without the necessity of rewriting the logic from the scratch. The variables specified within the parentheses while creating the function are technically called as parameters. The values passed to the variables within the parentheses while executing the function are technically called as arguments. Now we will understand the benefits we get when using the function in our program. This program is developed without any function and we can observe that the code is repeated multiple number of times for each value of x and y. This program is developed with the concept of function. Here the parameters and the logic is specified only once and the function is called multiple times in the program for multiple values of x and y. With the help of functions, the number of lines of code in the program is also reduced. This is an advantage of using the function. In case of the program without functions, if we want to apply the logic for 100 different values of x and y, we need to write the program with 300 lines of code. In case of the program with functions, for the same 100 different values of x and y, we need to write 113 lines of code. 3 lines of code for the function creation and 1 line of code for calling the function for each value of x and y. Let's understand the other important advantage of using the function called easy to maintain. When we use the functions in our program, any code changes or new enhancements will be easy. Assume that we have got a requirement to do a change in the logic to replace y minus x to y plus x. If our program is developed without using the function concept, then we need to change the logic in all the places wherever we have used the logic in our program. If our program is developed using functions, then we need to perform the logic change only in one place. Once the function is created with the new logic, the function execution happens with the new logic wherever it is called with different arguments of x and y parameters. The modification of the logic will be easy and the adding of new logics also will be easy as we need to do the change only at one place. These are some of the inbuilt functions available in Python. There are a lot of inbuilt functions available which are not mentioned here. You will understand the purpose of each and every function in our future classes. Now we will practically understand how to create a function and use the function for different values of x and y. First, I will write the program code without using any variables or functions. The logic specified within the print function is evaluated by the Python interpreter and the final result of the calculation is printed to us. If I want to know the result of the above calculation with the values 4 and 5, I need to write the logic again, replacing the value 10 with 4 and 20 with 5. The result of the calculation is printed. I will find the result of the same calculation with the value 1000 in the place of 4 and 2000 in the place of 5. The result of the calculation is printed. I will find the result of the same calculation with the value 45 in the place of 1000 and 70 in the place of 2000. The result of the calculation is printed. If we observe here, we are writing the entire calculation again and again for each different values we are interested. Now, instead of mentioning the values directly in the logic, I will use variables. I will create the variables x with the value 10 and y with the value 20. The variables are created successfully. Now, I will write the generalized logic created with the variables x and y and enclose the entire logic within the print function. During the execution, the interpreter replaced the variable x with the value 10 and replaced the variable y with the value 20 and the calculation is evaluated and the result is printed. If I want to find the result of the above calculation with the values 4 and 5, then I need to change the value of the variable x to 4 and the value of the variable y to 5. Now I will assign the new values to the variables x and y. The variables are created successfully. Now I will write the generalized logic code. Now the calculation is performed using the new values of x and y and the result is calculated using the new values 4 and 5. I will find the result of the calculation with the values 1000 and 2000. I will assign the new values to the variables x and y as per our requirement. We need to write the calculation logic again for the evaluation of the logic for the new values of x and y. Now the calculation is performed using the new values of x and y, and the result is printed based on the values 1000 and 2000. I will find the result of the calculation with the values 45 and 70. I will assign the new values to the variables x and y. The variables are created successfully. I will write the logic again for the evaluation of the logic for the new values of x and y. Now the calculation is evaluated based on the new values 45 and 70. When compared to finding the logic of the calculation by mentioning the values directly in the logic, finding the result of the same calculation using the variables makes our life little easier. Because we are just changing the values of the variables every time and copy pasting the same logic code without any changes. But in this approach also, we are creating the variables x and y again and again with different values, and the calculation logic is written repeatedly for each different value of x and y. To further simplify this, we have a concept called function. By using the function, we can write the logic only once and reuse the logic multiple times with different values of x and y. Now I will create a function with the same logic. The function is created successfully with the name myCalculation. I am able to confirm this because I did not get any errors from the interpreter. Now, I will try to create the function with some errors and see the response of the interpreter. We are getting error because of missing parentheses in the calculation logic. In case of any syntax error, the function will not be created and the interpreter will throw the error during the creation of the function. Sometimes the function code will not have any syntax errors, but logic errors might be present. In this scenario, the function will be created successfully without any errors, but we will get errors during the execution of the function. I will try to create the same function without any syntax errors, but with some logic errors. The function is created successfully. I will execute the function with the value 10 and 20. We are getting the error saying that the variable final underscore result is not defined with any value, but we are trying to print the value of the variable final underscore result from the function. Now I will recreate the function with the correct code. The function is created successfully. Now I will execute the function with different values of x and y. We are getting the output for each execution of the function based on the argument value provided during the execution. We can execute the function any number of times by passing different argument values for x and y parameters. Like my calculation function, print, type, id are inbuilt functions available in Python. Inbuilt means Python Software Foundation has already developed these functions, and these functions are made available for everyone who install Python. I will execute the print function with different arguments. Here, we are reusing the print function multiple times with different argument values. 10, 40, hello world are the arguments of print function. I will execute the type function with different arguments. Here, we are reusing the type function multiple times with different argument values. I will execute the id function with different arguments. Here, we are reusing the id function multiple times with different argument values. As I said earlier, Python interpreter is printing the output of type function and id function automatically. But when we mention the same code in a program file, the output will not be printed. Hence, it is always recommended to use the print function to print the output of any function. I hope you got a good understanding of what is the function and the purpose of the function. From now onwards, I assume that you will start using the inbuilt functions with understanding. There are some more advanced concepts are there in functions. I will explain them in future when we get into functions concept. Thank you for watching this video. If you are happy with the learning in this video, please like and share this video to your friends and relatives who need this learning. Do not forget to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get updates on our upcoming videos.